Greetings all. Welcome to another session here of Tuesday Talks. Today we're going to be continuing our investigation of curriculum design and developing a curriculum and the principles that you can use to help you do that very process. Now today we're going to be looking at a variety of principles, and just to let you know, a lot of this stuff has been seen of and written in other places, so none of this is necessarily new. The nice thing is, you bring them all together, you can kind of use this as a checklist for developing a course, or better yet, to develop an actual curriculum. And so that's the nice thing about this. Before we actually begin building something, you should run through and see what all these principles are. Now, when we talk about principles, obviously they're going to be attached to some sort of method or basic philosophy, some research that has been affiliated with them. These principles are developed, and they are based on research. As you see from down here, you can go out and find information about them. And it's a good idea always to be using principles that are somehow based in some type of research, so that there's more reliability attached to it. Now, when you look at people who are going to be developing these things, they have a philosophy, and sometimes they call it a method or an approach. Basically, what they do is they have this way of teaching. They have this foundational belief structure for teaching. It's a foundation for teaching. The word method is sometimes used. Sometimes the word approach is used. They're more of the overarching type of words that try to signify this is the basic philosophy that I carry when I'm going to be developing something. Teachers should obviously they should know what their philosophy is, what their method is, and better yet, they should have a philosophy that's understood and grounded in research. Okay, so make sure that the work that you're going to be doing, just like these 20 principles that we're going to be looking at, are grounded within some form of research so that you have evidence to support it. 3 basic areas that we're going to be looking at today are content and sequencing, format and presentation, and monitoring and assessment. And these 20 combined, again, you can use as kind of a checklist. With regard to content and sequencing, if you're going to have content, you need to sequence it. Okay, it's going to be what some would call the scope and sequence. Okay, and the scope is like the depth of something, how deep something is, and the sequence is what you do, how many things that you do, one after the other after the other. And what is that sequence? Okay, so look at things like frequency, how often we use particular elements because they're popular. Stages, strategies, and autonomy, how we incorporate strategies and autonomy. Spaced intervals, the language system, in other words, the linguistics of it, the grammar of it. Keep moving forward. Teachability, the learning burden, and then interference. All that has to do with content and sequencing. For format and presentation, we've got these 10 issues, and they include motivation, the 4 strands, how you're going to be presenting them, fluency, output, deliberate learning, time on task, depth of processing, integrative motivation, and learning style. And lastly, we have monitoring and assessing, and that's ongoing needs and environmental analysis, and also feedback. Let's just jump into these. I'm going to go through these rather quickly because, like I said, you do find this in other places, and you can go look this information up if you so desire. Again, a lot of this comes out of Nation and McAllister's text language curriculum design. Beginning, frequency. Okay. Include high-frequency items, high-frequency vocabulary, high-frequency grammar. You want to include them, especially in the more initial stages, because they're the ones that are going to be used more often. Okay, courses should master high-frequency items first, and then work with the lower-frequency items. Okay, begin with the high. Doesn't really matter what area or what content you're dealing with. You're going to deal with the high-frequency ones first. Okay. You need to verify that materials being used include these items. This is not as easy to do if you have a text and you want to verify that it's using high-frequency vocabulary. What do? You can go out to the internet and find places like the Lexical Tutor, which you can drop a block of text there and they can tell you how much text is high-frequency versus low-frequency. For people who don't have access to computers or don't have access to get to there and type in all that information from a text, it's a little bit harder to do, but it's a great way to verify the materials you have are appropriate for the level that you should be teaching. Teachers can, of course, supplement what they're learning or what they're teaching If they have low-frequency items, they can supplement it with more high-frequency items. They should also provide opportunities to practice with those high-frequency items, okay? Because they need to be able to practice 6 to 8 times in order for them to take things from short-term and push it into longer-term memory, okay? So that's frequency. You need to hit these high-frequency items. Strategies and autonomy. You should be including within the curriculum opportunities to teach students how to teach themselves. Opportunities for students to teach them how to learn language, tricks and strategies to become an independent learner. And that's one of the things that you want to try to gain, right? You can learn these strategies slowly over time, okay? Strategies for learning language, for getting out of a problem, for coping with stress, for thinking about language. A variety of these that you can do, and go out and look for a text on that if you're interested in learning more about what type of strategies are out there. Spaced retrieval. This has to do with coming back to an item again. You teach it once, and then you teach some other things, but then you come back to this item again. You're coming back again and again, okay? And you want to do it in the Leitner method, if you know who Leitner was, and this was this spaced retrieval. You practice it once, then you practice it again, and then you wait a little longer, and you practice it again. And this spaced retrieval is going to help students learn faster. Opportunities to practice high-frequency materials. Computer analysis is going to help you gain more information on a spaced retrieval. Language system. Questions should include a focus on form. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the language structure, the grammar within it. Okay, you should do that in all of your courses, but at the same time, you need to recognize it's not supposed to be the primary. And when you do focus on grammar, when you do focus on form, make sure that the things you're focusing on are the high-frequency items. Okay, so you want to focus on the structural elements, focus on the high-frequency structural elements, so they can learn those first, okay? So you can do this in any area. So, for example, with regard to vocabulary, you can be teaching vocabulary, but you can also be teaching the endings of words. You know, here's an AL, for example, and you can share with students what that means. An AL is an adjective, for example. So you could be teaching some grammatical elements there. If you're teaching writing, in addition to teaching writing, teach cohesive devices, okay, which are these adverb and adverbial type systems that are in our writing. If you're going to be doing reading, you can talk about sentence interpretation strategies, strategies for trying to figure out what it is the writer is trying to say. And you want to focus on those language systems. Keep moving forward and spiral upward. It's a way of learning. We talked about our spaced retrieval, right? Where you have something and then you come across it again and you repeat it again, all right? You do that thing again. Well, what these guys mean here is that you keep moving forward, you keep moving higher up, but you're also reviewing things as you go along. And so you want to be able to have the idea, the feeling that you're moving forward, you're progressing with your language ability because you're moving on to new things, but you're also coming back to old things as well with the spaced retrieval. So you want to develop a list of skills, develop a database of items so that you can get your scope of all the things that you want to teach. Okay? And so that's what he's talking about in this area, where you're developing a list of skills and database items that you want taught. You should have them listed. Normally, when I set up a course, I will set up the listening skills I want them to practice, if they need to, the writing skills, the reading skills, the grammar items, and the vocabulary items. I have all this stuff listed so that I know these are things I want to cover in my class. Now, I could be doing a dance class. Okay, it doesn't matter what the content is. I know that I want to cover these items and either be reading, writing, listening, speaking, or the two databases. And so you want to develop a list of skills, a list of items in the database that you want covered, and then you sequence them throughout the life of this particular course. Could be a week, could be a month, could be an entire year. Regardless, you want to have that sequence laid out. It's also good to share these with your students. Interestingly enough, when you give students this list, this is what we will cover in this class, they're happy. They realize, they see what it is if they're going to try to be mastering within the course. And so you're giving them a goal, you're giving them the purpose, the objective, rather than just going into a class and saying, hey, we're going to learn language. So definitely a better thing to do. Teachability. Make sure that students are ready to learn. The greatest impact of teaching occurs when students are ready to learn. Okay, since language learners typically, these things that they learn is typically in a fixed order. Okay, we need to keep an eye on what they're ready to learn. So we're going to look for these teachable moments. We're going to look for when they're ready to learn. And if they're not ready to learn, we need to do something to get them ready to learn. Okay, prepare materials that will guide students through these stages, again, the lower stages up into the higher stages, this fixed learning environment. But we need to do it when they're ready to learn. This brings us to the next point, which is this whole idea of a learning burden. Okay, we need to take advantage of prior knowledge and cognate words to help learners acquire language more quickly. Okay, we need to recognize and take advantage of the similarities in the first language. And if you can see these overlaps, that's a great plus for your students. They're going to be able to lessen the burden of language learning. I loved learning, just an example, I loved learning Spanish. Because there are so many hooks with words that I could get that were, Latin-based words that we have in English. When I studied Japanese, a lot of those hooks were gone. It was a lot more difficult to learn new words because the hooks weren't there. That connection to the first language wasn't there. So take advantage of them, and you can also increase motivation because they begin to see these relationships. Okay, interference. When you're teaching, make sure that you avoid putting things in the environment that cause interference. Okay, anything that's going to interfere with the students of language learning, and it could be the physical environment. Okay, so you don't teach language while the TV is on. You don't teach language while a movie is running. Okay, you might have some quiet music in the background, preferably no words. Again, try to keep them away from losing their focus. Silence, in my opinion, can be something that's distracting as well. Silence can be loud. So anyway, you want to get rid of those things that cause interference. Then at the same time, you want to avoid linguistic interference. You want to avoid pairing elements together that, although they look like, oh, that's nice, in and out, and, cup and spoon and fork and knife, and putting those types of things together is actually more difficult to learn it. At least that's what the research says. So avoid pairing strongly related items, for example, antonyms, on, off, in, out, those types of things. Simply put, avoid the interference if possible. All right, format and presentation. Motivation, make it interesting. Make it such a way that they want to be there. They want to learn. They want to play. They can't wait to go back, right? Make it relevant to them. Give them control over the content. I can't believe how interesting this makes it when you go in and you say, what do you want to do? What do you want to study? And when you start studying that information, okay, using the 4 skills and the 2 databases that they need, but when you give them control over content, they're now more motivated. Make it achievable. Do things in such a way that they have lots of signposts for success. You did this. You accomplished this. You succeeded. Let them know that they can do it. In the words of What About Bob, the movie What About Bob, baby steps. Give them baby steps. Maybe you want to give them a progress chart so they can see that they're making progress. Try to encourage them to become independent learners, doing it all by themselves, right? Give awards and give challenges. I cannot believe how many times I see students who think they can't do it. And I push them, and then they see they can do it, and they're more excited because of that. Motivation. Balance the 4 strands. Mentioned before about focus on form. Don't go more than 25% with the focus on form. Okay, but you want to balance the 4 strands so that you have a balanced view and a balanced use of language in all the areas. Comprehensible input. Make sure that you have a lot of opportunities to practice. Significant amount of input is going to be an advantage for them because they're going to be able to practice with this information as they move forward and upward. Take advantage of graded readers if you have them. Graded readers is a great way to slowly move students, giving them lots of input. It's not difficult. There's not a great focus on form, but it gives them opportunity to do lots of practice, get lots of input, which is going to help them gain greater control and acquisition over language. Fluency. Incorporate lots of fluency in and out of class. Provide opportunities for your students to practice with language inside and outside. Obviously, that's more difficult when you're overseas, but find ways to do it, whether it's having them go talk to foreigners or putting people on the internet. Have them go out and talk with people so that they can practice more. Pushed output production, especially with older learners. Actually, could be with any of them, but you begin to work them as soon as they understand something, as soon as they can start doing something. Get them to do pushed output. Push their skill, push their practice of the activities. Activities should cover a variety of topics, obviously, that are interesting and necessary and good for them. But again, you're working with the 4 skills in 2 daily bases. Get that stuff pushed out, and they're going to learn faster. The last 5 for format and presentation: deliberate language-focused learning. Again, it's going to help them understand. Do not make it the primary. Again, no more than 25%. But doing so gives them the opportunity to focus on form. It also satisfies some people who have linguistic curiosity. Do you have linguistic curiosity? I know that's one way that I've learned. I wanted to find out how all these pieces worked. I'm the kind of guy who likes to take the car apart to figure out how pieces work. It can also help speed up learning. Okay, if it's done the right way. Biggest thing is we need to notice. We as teachers need to notice. So if it becomes too much, then it can become a barrier, and we don't want it to become a barrier. Barriers are bad. We want them to be able to learn, and so make sure it has a positive impact on their learning. Time on task. Keep students focused on the task. So you're focusing them on the task, and when they begin to drift away because of something, you pick a new task. Do something else to get them back on track. Typically, if I have an hour-long class, I might have 6, 7 activities ready to go in the event that I'm beginning to lose students because they can't focus. Okay, so I'm going to switch things up. Try to keep them on task. Okay, notice what's going on with your students. You need to watch them. Are they fatigued at doing a particular activity? Okay, then you want to switch. But you've got to notice. You don't notice, and have you ever been in a class and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I can't keep my eyelids open. Oh, this is just... And the teacher just keeps droning on and keep talking on, right? They're not noticing. Okay? Have them get up, walk around, play a game, have a new little free conversation time. Get them moving. Keep them on task. Okay? But you got to notice to be able to do that. Never liked classes where teachers didn't notice we were tired. All right, integrative motivation. Create activities, try to create activities and opportunities where students actually want to engage. Where students actually say, you know what, I like this language so much, I want to get involved. I want to join this group. Not necessarily going to happen right away. It certainly is going to happen in certain places where students have no opportunity to get involved with native speakers. But that's going to be the goal. Let them know. Try to encourage them to be a part of this other culture. Learning styles include opportunities for students to work with their own learning styles that work with them, work for them. Obviously, they need to know what those are. You as a teacher, you need to know what they are. But if you do that, it's going to be a better plus for your students. Last 2, monitoring and assessment, ongoing needs and environmental analysis. Ensure that the course development begins with an analysis of needs and analysis of the environment. Continue that. In more research type of words, you're going to be doing a lot of formative assessment. You're going to be assessing what's going on throughout the course. You're going to be assessing their progress. You're going to be assessing the activities that you created, if they're actually doing what you want them to do. Are they getting their intended result? You want to keep this process going throughout the life of the course or the life of the curriculum so that you can identify what's good, what's bad, what can be changed. Okay? Ongoing needs and environmental analysis. And also feedback. Ensure that significant, meaningful, useful feedback opportunities exist in the course. Feedback is going to be good for your students to provide information, but it's also going to be good for students to get this information. As they're getting feedback, they're getting guided to say, hey, you're doing well, keep going. Or they're going to get information that says you need to push a little more, you need to focus more on this. So you're going to try to get this feedback and get it from all the stakeholders. Yes, from the students and from their peers and also from teachers. So the more feedback that they can get, again, they're going to get more of a layered approach to information. This is a true story, by the way. I had a student writing a paper, and they wrote it online, and all the other students, they read the articles, and then they posted comments. And this one girl I interviewed, and she said in the interview, I got this one comment from a student, and the comment said something critical about my paper, and I said, yeah, we're going to ignore this one. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And she discounted it. And then she got 4 or 5 more that said the same thing. And all of a sudden she's like, maybe this guy's right. Okay? Well, it was very interesting. They were getting peer feedback, but because they were getting multiple layers of it, it encouraged this student to rethink what they were doing and to revise their paper. So getting feedback is definitely a plus. And again, multiple people can do it. Some things that you can do with these lists. 1, use it to help design a course. You got that list of 20 things? Use this list to help you write a better course. Okay? You're going to write through a course. You're going to write a curriculum. You want to try to incorporate all these things. Make sure that they're all there. You're going to be sequencing a bunch of activities. You're going to be, sequencing the elements that you want to cover. You want to try to include all these types of things so that you're well balanced and you have a curriculum that has a good focus that's measurable that students can have. That's one of the things I like about this particular thing is that we can use this to create a course. Okay. Use a good guide for creating activities and courses. We can use it to evaluate existing courses. So we have a course, and how well does it stack up against these 20 researched principles? An excellent thing to do. It can help teachers incorporate what they've learned from their research into their courses. Okay, so they can now try to add things, try to modify things as we go. It's also good for reflection. All that monitoring that's going on, that reflection during and at the end is going to be a definite plus to help improve the course. Can also function as a guide for teacher training. If you're going to be teaching somebody how to teach, for example, you can use this 20 points as to help them, hey, these are the types of things that you want to put into a course, okay? So there's some good reasons to have this list. Again, it's stuff's out there in other places, but it's out there, and you can use it here because it's all in one place. All this stuff is supported by research, these 20 principles. They can be used in a variety of areas of study. Not just in language. Okay, you pick the field, and you can basically use these points here, at least some of them, with regard to teaching. Okay, they're broken down into the 3 categories, and they all are ordered by ranks, by orders of importance. So if you go back and look at the 20 points here, okay, you'll see that the upper ones are probably going to be more important than the lower ones. Okay, so they're ranked by importance. Okay. And that's all I have for today with regard to the principles that you want to try to use when you're developing a curriculum or even if you're going to be only developing one course. Thank you for stopping by, and if you do have any questions, you can certainly give me a message on the board, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.